Welcome back to Night Mind, friends, and welcome to a night at the opera. Please make sure your seating arrangement is comfortable and that you're mentally prepared for tonight's performance. I assure you, there's never been a show quite like it. In the wake of the success of Marble Hornets, the unfiction scene evolved to include a lot more projects in the vein of what you might call art house narratives. Abstract, startling visuals loaded with symbols and interpretive touches, evoking the style of To the Ark, while channeling their creators' own sensibilities towards uncommon approaches in video editing and performance. Many web series conveyed their story through singular shots and bits of text, sometimes excluding the tradition of introducing characters on screen entirely, trusting viewers to interpret their work while being immersed in its effects. It wasn't enough to tell a narrative. A viewer had to feel it, no matter how disturbing or unnerving the work was, which, quite often, was the point. Of these art house works, one of the most successful by all measures was a project I introduced through Night Vision in July of 2017. 2H32, a gruesome enigma that compelled followers to deconstruct it, all while anticipating a more horrific presentation would soon be uploaded than the one that came before. Since the introduction of 2H32 years ago, the project has grown significantly, adding several installments that fit into their own titled playlists, which have been ordered in a way that runs contrary to the upload pattern of the videos, suggesting that there's a more carefully crafted presentation available than any linear upload playlist. While we've examined some of 2H32's early videos already, all of which last 2 minutes 32 seconds, it would seem a proper investigation follows the playlist order, and it's through this method that we'll be interpreting the work. I do, naturally, encourage that you conduct an exploration yourself first, as 2H32 is still a live project, and there's nothing quite like experiencing something in raw form if you're uninitiated. Go ahead, take a moment to indulge in some of the more intriguing entries, but you may want to subscribe to Night Mind here first in case you get lost in the performance and forget where you walked in. And of course, to ensure more journeys like this one are brought to your subscription feed in the near future. I'll give you a moment to get acquainted with the show. Are you all set now with getting a first taste? Excellent. Let's proceed then. The first act of 2H32 is titled 2H32, and also begins with a video titled 2H32, which was uploaded on June 23, 2016. The first entry establishes a pattern involved in every upload to come, a countdown from 2:30:01 a.m. through 2:30:09 a.m., followed by the video content, and at the end, a count from 2:31:54 to the eponymous 2:32. While not every video occurs in this exact duration, they all fall between 2:30 and 2:32 a.m. The first video is a collage that serves as a glimpse of things to come while setting the tone for viewers. Some strategic images let us know that we may be in for an uncomfortable time, like a bloody burlap sack in an isolated area covered in graffiti. The next video, Ode, presents us with the following. The music grows as the character behind the camera approaches the door, and of course, they soon reach for it, tempted by the music in the darkness. The kidnapping victim stays in place as the music plays, unable to do anything, and is approached by a stranger. In a shot of distortion, we see the victim has been taken away. The countdown to 32 minutes brings us this close-up shot of a hideous figure, most likely the kidnapper. The next video, Door, presents us with the same image as before. But the perspective must be new, since we've just witnessed the fate of the last person to approach it, and someone is holding a flashlight as they record. Soon, the door begins to open on its own. So, did the second person to enter end up in the place we were shown, or is the context behind that footage meant to be revealed later? That may remain a mystery, but the ending, showing us another close-up of a strange face, is reminiscent of the last scene in the video before. What follows throughout Act 1 can be described as a kaleidoscope of images, symbols, and sequences. The next installment, Inside, seems to serve as an introduction to that idea, right down to the kaleidoscopic filter. We can see locations, monsters, and glimpses of humanity in the world beyond the door, and a gate that may lead to the same graffitied area shown earlier. There is a dark Alice in Wonderland sense about it, and a sequence at the end seems to underline this point, showing someone running through a tunnel. Atrocious is the entry that follows, showing some of the cleanest and most straightforward footage yet. Our focus is on a tree late at night, and the visitor to this place seems to be searching its branches. The footage cuts to a discovery, a large burlap sack hanging from a branch by chains, heavy with its contents and leaking blood. The bag soon comes down, without interference from the camera operator. They approach the bag, examining the mess, and then follow as someone or something drags it out of sight. The tone of the next video, Abominable, is very different from its predecessor. The red-cloaked figure has an immediate effect, turning the camera red and causing its operator to fall to their knees, vomiting blood. Their anguish is clear, but after the ordeal, they get up, leaning against a tree, and carry on. A final scene is presented, showing us the stranger in the woods in better detail. The entry that follows, Doctor, almost seems like a response to the previous one by title alone. The camera is blurry, unable to focus on any particular part of the scene, but does seem to give us hints of a face or a trembling hand. The entire time, a music box plays, and we can hear muffled sounds of distress in the background. The way this entire sequence is conducted, in union with the title, gives the impression of an operation underway, or at the very least, of being captive to something we don't understand. Allure is an interesting video, presenting a camera operator catching sight of someone behind a tree in the woods, only to find it was a trick. More mannequin feet appear, and the visitor's study is broken only by a scream. Now for something truly unexpected, and a potential goldmine of clues. Watch the beginning of the next video, Ascension. What can this tell us? First, we can discern that the user is accessing an IBM computer that was last active on January 1st, 1980, New Year's Day, 13 seconds after the turn of the year. The computer is being accessed on February 23, 2003 at 2:32 a.m. 2H32 is a project, and expeditions are underway to study something. Whatever this place is, and whatever is going on, someone out there knows about it. But what would make them use an old IBM computer as part of their work? Is this maybe just a clue about how long this has been happening? The footage that follows is of no help to us in solving that mystery. We're shown an area of the woods covered in snow, and again, someone is walking around, dragging a chain behind them as they carry a burlap sack. It ends up at the first location, hung from a tree in the center of the frame. The camera operator becomes distracted by something, and we're shown footage of an axe being dragged through the snow. A scene follows the arrival of 2:32 a.m., potentially giving us a glimpse of the axe wielder. Opera is the next entry, and it opens with some intriguing imagery. From here, the camera operator continues to run through the woods on bare, dirty feet, wearing torn pants. But soon, their run comes to an end. The next video, Origin, picks up immediately from the point we leave off. The final scene shows us the figure in the chair again, wielding the chain. If we weren't able to understand the point before, we do now. The image of the red chair in Opera was effectively a warning, or premonition, a sign of the arrival of this figure who occupies it and has authority in this forest. They hold the chain. They control what happens to whoever it captures. The sounds made during the hand movements by the figure on the chair suggest its victim may not have been the camera operator seen earlier, but whoever it was taking action against seemed to suffer. The final entry in this act is called libretto, the text of an opera or other long vocal work. A character in white sits in a chair, disfigured and wearing a white and black mask, listening to a compilation of quotes from videos about 2H32 from Rainbot, Nexpo, Inside a Mind, and myself. It's safe to assume this is the conductor of the show, and more than likely the figure in white from the previous video. There is a purposeful presentation here, a silent declaration that they're very aware of the audience and critics of the performance. Act 2 has also been titled 232, just in a different way than previous. It opens with a video titled after the only name attributed to the creator of the project, P. A couple gathers beneath a tree, preparing to watch a performance. A hand stretches out from behind the tree, beckoning them to sit down. After sitting, a skull appears with a timestamp for 232, reminiscent of the same skull icon left in comments on the videos marking the time when 232 strikes in the entry. We return to the image of the tree, now with the title of this act, 232, carved into its trunk. The burlap sack is tied on its right set of branches. From the space in the middle, we see the figure from libretto rise, and he greets his visitors. P, we can assume, waving directly at us. The tree returns and the curtains are drawn. Renaissance is an entry that presents a well surrounded by candles, which soon produces the burlap sack. It hangs in the air before the footage cuts to a sequence of shots featuring monsters. We then return to the well, hearing a murder of crows calling out while someone with a bloody hand climbs out. In the scene that follows 2:32 a.m., we see the well is covered in blood, suggesting that its inhabitant has escaped. Opia is the entry that follows, a fascinating piece that opens with a scene we aren't used to from this world. The conductor stands still in the field of snow as a distorted version of a collage poem called Falling plays from a dream narration album recorded in 1964. A woman describes falling upright, and a man describes turning, mouth open wide, making no sound. Screams echo out in the background as the world itself starts to shift and distort, changing our view of the conductor with it. Until, at last, a break. A creature in red whose mask resembles the burlap sack appears through a hole in this reality, and once unmasked, disappears entirely. The final scene is as grim as it is beautiful. Bit by bit, we're being introduced to characters, monsters and creatures we don't understand, either in their intention or their purpose, but none of whom we would trust. Perhaps some information will be gained through the next few uploads. The first of them is named Ensemble, a promising title for learning more. It depicts the conductor in the woods with a flower pot, surrounded by hanging corpses wrapped in burlap. Notice, however, how the conductor seems to be wearing another creature's outfit. This may work with a sudden cut to footage to what appear to be other monsters. In tandem with the title of the video, the suggestion may be that the conductor is behind all the creatures. The performance might be the work of one central entity, putting on different costumes to present other characters. The next title is presented in Japanese, Bakemono, a shape-shifting monster. We return to the woods, observing an empty area save for the trees. It suddenly shifts, presenting a figure in the outfit from the previous video, surrounded by the same sort of candles from the well in Renaissance. Over the course of the footage, it appears to grow taller until we're taken around to the front side of the creature with a new backdrop made of 2s, 3s, and self-portraits, minus the hat. This is the figure who's lost an eye and wrapped in bandages. In the final scene, we're presented with an overlay image on the creature, and it's reminiscent of a shot witnessed in Opia. What looked like a burlap sack mask may have just been another bandage wrap, but here, both eyes are injured, and the mouth isn't looking healthy either. Since this is an overlay of the creature we've just been observing, and the title means shapeshifter, are we meant to infer that what we're witnessing is a monster in the midst of transformation? If so, then what state are they changing from, and what are they changing into? A creature who is healing, with only one eye still damaged, or one who will lose both eyes? We have a fair bit to think about now, so it makes sense that the next piece is titled Interlude, often a moment in a performance to reflect on what's come before and remind ourselves of what we know. Many of the elements that we've witnessed so far come together here. The white chair, the chain, the version of the conductor who wears the hat, though this time he's much bloodier, both on his face and his feet. The bloody feet are an interesting touch, reminding us of the captive seen running through the woods earlier. There is a suggestion here, through these symbols and the movements of the character, not particularly enthusiastic, that maybe he's not doing any of this willingly. The pieces in between cast in red too seem to indicate a sort of internal struggle. This is far more like the image seen at the end of Opia, and the mask is being messed with, almost taken off in these sequences, but is pulled back into place. The final shot is aggressive and accompanied by harsh noise, giving us further idea of a struggle. And in the very last scene, we see this character seated on the chair, but not looking very happy. Free as he might be, he almost seems like he's not in control of that chain. The next entry, simply titled H, is highly mysterious. It consists entirely of footage of this figure in red, slowly turning to look through the portrait. The final scene depicts the figure trapped behind bars of numbers, 2s and 3s of course, as if being kept prisoner. If we take the idea presented in H as a direct follow-up to the work of Interlude, the concept of being captive, we suddenly see a through line in all of 2H32, being taken prisoner. All the way back in the second video, Ode, we witnessed this, as the camera operator opened the door to this world and was quickly captured. Their time in this reality subjected them to terror and physical torment, and sightings of the burlap sack may have been a clue about what happens to others who enter the realm. Take note also of the sequence in Renaissance. Someone or something was being kept in that well and made its escape at the end. We have elements of kidnappings and creatures being held prisoner in the series, and some in positions of power who may be reluctant in their roles. Are there any clues we can gather for connective tissue between these concepts? There is one, which we've already seen. The use of H in the IBM computer sequence earlier, from Ascension, a video concerning a visitor to this realm conducting an expedition. Is this what became of them? The next entry, Invitation, may help us collect more clues. We watch the sun go down, colored red, naturally. Then we're introduced to a character on the train tracks, someone we've caught glimpses of before. When they stand and turn around, we see their head is wrapped in a sheet and the mouth is dirty. This looks like the character whose eyes were wounded in Bakemono, but before those injuries. As he motions for us on the tracks, we receive shots of woods along a stream, then several moments of worms and meat being thrown into the water. Is this creature fishing with his invitation? Is that why we're shown the door again, with the monster claws creeping out? A sequence involving clips of a dancing man in costume roll by, with words behind them. In order, they say, 232, a very special invitation. I want to play. A second message comes through in the final scene in a sea of timestamps. Don't sleep. 232 eat you. I am hungry. Wake up. I want to play. A final note on this entry. We've seen this character before. It was one of the first monsters to appear, showing up behind the kidnapping victim in the video, Ode. Promenade arrives next, showing us extended footage of the character in the raincoat from Renaissance, walking along with a camera operator following. It's unknown if this is the same visitor as earlier, who chased the burlap sack without being attacked. They don't seem to be in danger from this figure in the raincoat. It lets them get close and doesn't seem to register its presence at all, only stopping when a loud, deep droning sound is heard. One sequence of note is this, when it's coated in blood from a source we can't see. This clearly has meaning, but in the absence of anything else, it's difficult to gauge what that meaning is, unless it's a classic case of having blood on one's hands, or in this case, head. What follows is the overture, an odd place for an overture considering it's usually the orchestral piece that opens a performance. In other definitions, however, it's the introduction to something substantial, and from the opening, we can see why. A new hideous figure sits at a dinner table, preparing to eat a meal we vaguely recognize, an item shaped like the head of one of the bandage-wrapped creatures. Distortion hits, followed by a drop of liquid from above and the new character raising their wine glass to receive it. Instead, the glass drains, the liquid traveling upward. The skull imagery from P appears again, and we come to see the dinner plate is now saturated with blood. I sees, a bit of text says in a shot of distortion. The final scene depicts a baby doll, now with a head similar to the one from the plate, but with one eye missing and the other restored. The most visible eye we've seen in the entire series. The argument can be made that this doll is meant to resemble the conductor, but also resembles the figure from Interlude. Thinking about the events of Overture, we might be able to infer now from the bloodstains on the Interlude figure that his new markings indicate being fed, and I do believe this is the conductor in another outfit or form, even if he isn't playing all the characters. The prominent red eye was also visible in his strongest appearance, P, when he waved to us as the audience. There also seems to be a strong connection between events depicted entirely in red. They may be more symbolic than the other videos, or taking place in a deeper territory than the forest beyond the door. Finishing Act 2 is a video titled Exuent, a theater direction meant to usher characters off stage. For those who missed it, something very interesting occurred during the red overlay sequence, and I don't just mean the burlap sack distorting. The overall shape is that of a skull. Notice the round edges on top, tapering down towards the bottom to form a jaw, and the two dark spots on the image, one over the burlap sack and one across. Those are the eye sockets. This seems like a callback to the skull that's appeared in the other pure red sequences, and in the pinned comment for every video. The burlap sack distortion too reminds us of P's glowing red eye at certain points. Something occurring here directly involves P, but because we can't see the face of the figure being affected, it's hard to judge who it is. They do make an exit though, and the transition somehow involves this image of a skeleton. We're left with the door to this world over a golden field, with light cast over the scene, and of course, a final temptation as the door creaks open. Then the monsters fade, the light changes, the door disappears in a shot of distortion, and out we go, right up to the hour and minute of 2:32 a.m. No final scene, just an air of finality. Not all captives of this domain seem to escape, but this one appears to have survived their ordeal. What do we make of the videos that remain then? There are, after all, 2 playlists left. The first, Encore, consists of just 2 videos. The video Prelude is very much an encore of the series, treading scenes from beginning to end and showing off its characters. The second, Kapellmeister, is new to us, and perhaps the most valuable. You remember this scene, don't you? But I bet you don't remember this. The red eye of P in the distance, holding the end of the chain that drags the visitor to their fate. And here, watch the door sequence. Again, do you see it? P's glowing red eye, lurking in the darkness. He was here too. We witness more scenes that tell the tale, following the kidnapping victim from his torment after being chained to the footage of the burlap sack. Then the sack over the well, the kidnapping victim in burlap, in chains, and the emergence of someone from the well. Coated in red, we see their hand against a tree, the hand we thought belonged to the sequence in the beginning, when the visitor was first being tormented. The image from H appears, red, bloody, trapped behind the portrait. The mask in red, the figure beneath attempting to peel it off, followed by the figure in black and their moments on screen. Then, P, waving goodbye, right at the point when we'd expect to see the disappearance of the figure in black. And at last, I think we have a way of understanding. There may be several interpretations to the work of 2H32, and indeed, there will be, but with Kapellmeister, I believe we've been given the grand reveal of the narrative, beat for beat. It doesn't answer all the questions, but it does present the idea of a victim who explored the world of 2:32 a.m., encountering its monsters until being captured, tormented, killed, and reborn, molded into a new creation by P. We may have never lost our beginning character. We've seen them every time the figure in the black hat has appeared, and at the end of their journey, they're freed from this world. That certainly sounds like an ending. So what then brings us to the final 4 videos? What is the purpose of the playlist titled Grand Opera? The first video, Doppelganger, presents us with an all-new character, clad entirely in black, who picks up a phone call. The next entry, Reunion, presents the hands that we've seen before embracing an antique clock, ticking down from 2:32 naturally. It may be of note that these hands are pure black, in contrast to the white hands that once appeared from behind a tree, similar to how the new lead character is clad in black, in contrast to our previous lead, P, who wore white. The multi-handed figure shows its head while emerging through a door, and then we're introduced to a monster without a head, who shares similar hands, and summons many, many more from behind the door it stands in front of. Finally, our lookalike appears, and it's instantly clear that this may not be the escaped monster after all as it takes off its face, a copy of P's mask, but with both eyes. What's hidden beneath seems impossible to distinguish, but it looks like nothing you would want to get close to. Maestro is a fascinating video, combining both new and old. We're presented with two of the new characters, and a new edition of an old one, holding the chains. It looks like a mix between the figure clad in red from the video age and the figure in black, which would make sense if we're going with the logic that they were the same person at two different points in their transformation. Through a retread of the events inside the house, we catch new footage. Someone standing in the hallway and walking off, soon replaced by something with multiple arms wrapped in bandages. The portrait returns, and as the reflection comes into form, we can just make out the image of the new lead character. We're taken back to the woods and the world beyond, to the scene of the hooded figure in white with its chain, and the discovery by the visitor of the mannequin feet, the same we've seen belonging to the floating figure, which does suggest that monster was here at that time. The portrait returns, presenting the sequences in red from the previous story, and distortion carries us to the countdown. And now, Blackout, the final video from July 23rd, 2020. We remain inside the house, now under the control of the monsters, watching through the rain as they make appearances outside, until one, with several long limbs, snakes across the window and causes an electrical blackout. The final scene is fascinating, showing us another headless creature, but in a different outfit. And from here, we have a media blackout. There's been no activity since this video. All that's left for us at the moment is what we can interpret, and the realm of interpretations for 2H32 is, like the series, kaleidoscopic, especially with the new Grand Opera entries. There are projects in the realm of online storytelling that are quite similar to a work of surrealist art. Fascinating, but difficult to describe your thoughts about, even as you know it's making you think and feel something. We're compelled to find the logic in it, to see the narrative, and will come to an understanding in some form, whether or not it aligns with the intention and understanding of the artist. 2H32 is a performance that no doubt is crafted by P, its author and true conductor, with personal intent and clear logic. What may be difficult for an audience is the dance of aligning their logic to P's, crossing into a territory of understanding the symbols and visual codes put before them, and this performance is precisely the type in which that is the deepest challenge on your part. But the primary challenge in the work comes from perceiving the meaning and narrative through your own lens. To see and understand a tale and its elements through your eyes, learning a new language of speaking in the process while gaining familiarity with visual terms you've already mentally defined. In 2H32, I see a performance regarding transformation, one that suggests it's the tale of its creator, acted out by that same creator, who plays the role of villain, victim, and hero. What is that purpose, though? Is the Grand Opera meant to provide an answer? To show us, through the spread of monsters into this side of reality, what purpose there was in their horrific ordeals as they catch new victims to turn into siblings? And what about the method of falling into this world to begin with? What about the IBM computer, the exploration project? Is this a symbolic sort of fall of man, a curiosity that never should have been indulged? Opening a door, investigating a paranormal void, following a bloody burlap sack dragged by a chain. Sometimes our curiosity with the darkness leads us down some truly twisted rabbit holes, and the piercing red of the alarm clock can open a whole realm of bloody wonders. The most important thing to take away from 2H32 is not, I believe, a spot-on guess about P's intended narrative and symbolic language. It's whether or not you fell to the performance. Did it unnerve you? Did it scare you? Did it enthrall you? Did the goosebumps break out on your limbs? Did you look into the tunnel and sense the allure of the darkness? If so, the project is effective. You have been an audience to the performance and come away with something for your time and attention. And perhaps, in the right time and space, inspired by the sights you've seen, you'll put on some music and create monsters of your own. I don't know when 2H32 will return, and in what form. I'm actually a Patreon supporter of P, and not even I have that knowledge. What I do know is that what we have already is powerful. It is groundbreaking, and the fields of online storytelling and art house projects are made richer by its existence. That's all for tonight, everyone. Thanks to P for conducting 2H32. Thanks to all of you for watching. And thanks to my supporters on Patreon, who enable me to bring you more journeys into worlds of darkness and illuminate the monsters within. If you'd like to support the work I do on Nightmind and the Nightmind Index for new and emerging unfiction projects, you can join the Patreon for as little as $2 a month, which also gets your name in the credits at the end of all major videos. It really truly does make a difference in my life and my ability to do consistent work, and I appreciate it immensely. Thanks for joining me in the dark again this evening. Once more, I'm Nick Nocturne, and I'll be seeing you again real soon. Sleep tight.